Welcome to Crying Inside, where we share family stories filled with tears, betrayal, pain, and the hidden strength within us. Thank you for spending time with us here, listening and empathizing. Sometimes, horror doesn't come from the outside world, not from dark streets or shadows lurking behind you. It comes from the place you trust the most, from the home where you thought you were safest, and sometimes from the very people you believed would love and protect you forever. The story you're about to hear isn't just a series of terrifying events, but the journey of a brave woman. She had to face a terrible truth. The life partner who shared meals, smiles, and sleep for years was the one silently destroying her trust and threatening her life every day. Here, we don't just want to tell a tragedy. We want to remind you that there's always a light in the darkness, and even when you feel most alone, there's hope to stand up again. If stories like this touch your heart, please subscribe, like, and share so you don't miss any videos. Your support is what drives us to keep bringing real, heartfelt stories. That night, the small house on the outskirts of Portland was silent. Outside, the November wind howled through the bare branches. The sound of dry leaves scraping the road sent chills down the spine. In the bedroom upstairs, Emily Johnson lay still on a queen-sized bed. Her eyes closed tight, breathing steady, but her heart raced wildly, as if it could burst out of her chest any moment. Emily was pretending to sleep. She had been preparing for this moment for days. For weeks now, every night after drinking the chamomile tea, her husband, Michael, carefully brewed, her body fell into a strange, heavy haze. Not normal sleep, but a deep sinking feeling, like being pulled down to the bottom of a dark abyss. At first, Emily thought it was just stress from work. But then she began to notice a strange bitterness in the tea she'd known so well. And tonight, instead of drinking, she secretly poured it out and replaced it with water. Heavy footsteps echoed on the wooden hallway floor. The door creaked softly. Michael stepped in, his tall silhouette faintly visible under the light streaming from the hallway. Throughout 7 years of marriage, Emily had always trusted and admired this man. He was a model husband, hard-working, thoughtful, always knowing how to make his wife feel loved. But at this moment, as he paused in the dark room, she knew for sure it was all just a facade. Michael didn't walk over to the bed as usual. He quietly moved to the corner of the room, where a wooden cabinet stood by the window. Emily held her breath, her eyes barely open to watch. He knelt down, pulled out a thin metal object, and began prying up the floorboards. His movements were so precise and practiced, it sent chills down her spine, as if he'd done this dozens of times. Within minutes, a black void appeared beneath the wooden floor. Michael reached in and pulled up a metal box about the size of a shoebox. Emily felt her hands grow icy cold, her heart aching. She had never imagined that right under where she slept was hiding such a terrible secret. Michael opened the box. In the dim light, Emily could still make out thick bundles of cash tightly bound together. Next to them was a stack of passports. She stared wide-eyed, her heart skipping a beat when she saw that each passport had Michael's face, but with different names. Daniel, Robert, James. Each one was a fake identity. Emily felt numb all over. But it wasn't over. Michael then took out a photo album. Pictures of women, all around Emily's age, with dark hair and gentle faces. Some photos were clearly taken secretly. Some were caught entering a house. Others just getting out of a car or standing under streetlights. A wave of nausea rose in Emily's throat. She had to bite her lip hard to keep from making a sound. Her whole body trembled, but she still tried to look like she was sound asleep. Memories of Michael flashed through her mind. The man who once proposed to her on the windy Cannon Beach. The one who held her close to comfort her on days she failed at work. The one who whispered in her ear before their wedding that he would always protect her. Those memories were now shattered, turning into sharp shards of glass reflecting the horrifying truth before her eyes. Michael flipped through each passport, shining his phone flashlight on them, jotting something down in a small notebook. In that moment, as the light shone on his face, Emily clearly saw his smile. It wasn't the gentle smile she once knew. It was a cold, calculating smile, one belonging to a complete stranger. Emily clenched her fist tightly beneath the blanket, her nails digging deep into her skin. She wanted to jump up and scream, to ask, "Who are you? Why are you doing this?" But her mind forced her to stay still. Even the slightest sound could turn tonight into the last night of her life. The air in the room grew thick and heavy. The wind howled outside, her heart pounding wildly, blending into a heavy sound. Every second stretched on endlessly like a century. Michael packed up every item, placed the metal box back where it belonged, closed the lid, then neatly replaced the floorboards as if nothing had happened. Before leaving, he turned to look at the bed. Emily quickly squeezed her eyes shut. She heard footsteps coming closer, the bed slightly sinking as he sat on the edge. A hand gently touched her hair, stroking softly. "Sleep well, Emily," he whispered. His voice was as gentle as always, but in every word she felt a chill run down her spine. The bedroom door closed. Darkness returned. Only then did Emily dare to breathe deeply. Tears streamed down, soaking her pillow. She knew her marriage was no longer about love. It was a nightmare, and from this moment on, her life would never be the same again. Emily Johnson is a 3-4-year-old woman living in Portland, Oregon. Since childhood, she was raised in a middle-class family, with her father as a teacher and her mother a nurse. Emily is kind, hard-working, and always strives for a stable life. After graduating from college, she became a marketing employee at a local advertising company. The job was busy and stressful, but Emily always tried to keep a smile and stay optimistic. To her friends and colleagues, Emily is warm and always ready to help others. To her family, she is a pride, a strong, independent daughter. But to Michael, she is everything. In Emily's eyes, her husband is the perfect man she has always dreamed of. Michael, 40 years old, entered Emily's life in 2015 at a charity event, raising funds for poor children in Oregon. That day, Emily was a volunteer, in charge of welcoming guests. Michael walked in with a polished look, a confident smile, and a warm, deep voice. He said he worked in software technology, developing a project for a big company in Seattle. His calm demeanor and mature way of speaking made Emily feel safe right away. They started talking, and the conversation lasted more than 2 hours, as if they had known each other for a long time. Michael asked for Emily's phone number, and from that day on, he regularly texted, called, and checked on her. He never forgot to wish her a good morning or say good night before going to bed. That steady attention made Emily feel the love she had always longed for. In the following months, they dated often. Michael was always the one to take initiative, from booking tables at cozy restaurants to planning weekend picnics in the suburbs. He often brought Emily small bouquets, sometimes just a few wild daisies, but enough to make her feel like the luckiest woman. After a year of dating, Michael proposed to Emily on Cannon Beach as the sun was setting in a fiery red sky. He knelt down, hands trembling holding the ring, whispering, "I promise to protect you for the rest of my life." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes, and she nodded happily. Their marriage has lasted 7 years. On the surface, it was a dream marriage. Michael often cooked for his wife, especially the spaghetti he proudly claimed was a family recipe. He would wake up early to make coffee and gently kiss Emily's forehead before she left for work. To the neighbors, Michael was always friendly, ready to help fix fences and shovel snow from the driveway. During holidays, they often hosted small dinners, inviting close friends and family to celebrate together. Emily always smiled when she saw her husband chatting naturally with everyone, with humor and charm. Many people even told her, "You're so lucky to have such a wonderful husband." And Emily believed it was true. In her eyes, Michael was the ideal man. He rarely lost his temper, was always considerate, and showed up exactly when she needed him. Whenever Emily felt pressure at work, Michael would listen and comfort her with simple but powerful words. "You did your best. I'm proud of you." Maybe that's why Emily loved him so deeply. She never doubted, never thought that one day her love would turn into fear. Emily often told her friends that she met the love of her life on that fateful evening in 2015. Every time she thought back to the early days of their relationship, her eyes sparkled with happiness. Those sweet memories built a strong belief in Emily that Michael was the only man she could rely on for life. But the truth was, everything Emily saw, everything she believed, was just a carefully constructed facade. Michael was not the perfect husband he appeared to be. He could cook, take care of his wife, and be polite to the neighbors. But behind that facade was a completely different person. A person Emily had never imagined. Tonight, lying in the dark, pretending to be asleep, she glimpsed a part of the truth. The metal box under the floor, the fake passports, the secret photos of women. It was like a bucket of cold water thrown straight onto the sweet memories she had kept all this time. She wondered, could it be that from the very first moment they met at the charity event, it was all part of a carefully planned scheme? Could it be that the sweet messages, the simple bouquets, the promises of loyalty were all just tools to lure her into the marriage trap Michael had set? Doubt surged in Emily's mind, like a silent crack spreading, ready to shatter the picture of happiness she once cherished. And then she realized her love might have been just an illusion, while the truth was colder than any wind outside. Emily and Michael's house was located in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Portland. 2-story houses with brown-tiled roofs, neatly trimmed green lawns, and vibrant red maple trees lining both sides of the street in autumn. It was the kind of neighborhood anyone would immediately associate with the image of a typical warm and peaceful American family. Their life seemed simple and ordinary. Every evening, after dinner, Michael always prepared a cup of chamomile tea for his wife. He chose the exact blue cup Emily liked, added a spoonful of honey, and stirred gently. For Emily, it was a small but sweet habit, like a goodnight wish expressed through action. Late at night, they often sat together on the sofa watching an old movie, or Michael would read while Emily worked on her computer. On weekends, the house would be filled with laughter. They often hosted intimate dinners, sometimes just the two of them, other times inviting a few friends. Michael loved cooking. He often showed off his skills with tomato spaghetti or prepared a perfectly grilled steak. Emily would set the table, prepare flowers and candles to make the meal cozier. Neighbors in the block often held outdoor BBQs when summer came. Long wooden tables were set right on the lawn, kids ran around, and adults ate while chatting. Michael always blended in quickly, laughing and chatting comfortably, helping clean up, and often manning the grill for everyone. To those around him, he was the model of a friendly, trustworthy, neighborly man. Emily was very sociable too, often bringing homemade salads or desserts. Everyone praised them as the perfect couple, loving and harmonious. On Sunday mornings, Emily and Michael usually went together to the nearby church. They sat side by side on the long bench, listening to the sermon, then joined the community for a light meal. Mornings like that brought a peaceful feeling, as if nothing could ever break it. Emily often smiled happily when hearing the older church members bless the couple, calling them a promising young family. To anyone looking in, all of that was the picture of the American dream. A nice home, a devoted husband, a stable life with beautiful routines. Emily believed she was living that dream. On some winter evenings, after coming home late from work, she would open the door to a warm kitchen filled with the aroma of chicken soup. Michael had dinner ready, with a small vase of flowers on the table. They ate together, sharing stories about their day. Emily talked about stressful projects at work, while Michael shared about colleagues and future plans. She often leaned on his shoulder, feeling peaceful, as if the whole outside world couldn't reach her. The neighborhood they lived in also helped make their marriage seem perfect in everyone's eyes. Every holiday, neighbors hung decorations, kids dressed up for Halloween candy, and at Christmas, the whole street lit up with twinkling lights. Emily and Michael's house was no exception. Michael climbed onto the roof to hang lights, while Emily decorated the tree and baked gingerbread cookies. They took Christmas photos together and sent cards to family and friends. To outsiders, they were the perfect example of a happy American family. A loving couple, always by each other's side, enjoying the little things in life. Often Emily told herself how lucky she was, that life had given her everything she ever dreamed of. She had no idea that behind those sweet routines, cozy evenings, and laughter-filled BBQs, there was a cold truth she never expected. The husband she trusted, the man the whole neighborhood admired, was hiding a terrible secret. Emily's seemingly peaceful days began to crack over very small details. At first, she didn't pay much attention, just a fleeting bitter note in the chamomile tea Michael prepared every night. Emily was used to the gentle flavor of chamomile, with a hint of honey. But in the past few weeks, each sip of tea carried a strange aftertaste. Not obvious, but enough to make her frown. Maybe the honey was old, Emily told herself. Or maybe her taste buds had changed after a long, stressful day. Then, an unusual drowsiness set in. Not the usual tiredness after work, but a sudden collapse, as if her body had no strength left to resist. Every time she finished her tea, her eyes grew heavy, and her eyelids drooped within minutes. Many nights, Emily slept so deeply she didn't dream or hear a thing until her alarm blared the next morning. That wasn't like Emily at all before. She used to be a light sleeper. Even the smallest noise would wake her. Sometimes just a gust of wind slamming the window would jolt her awake and keep her up all night. But now, her body seemed to have lost control. The unease grew as Emily started noticing other odd things around the house. One morning, she found her wallet wasn't where she'd left it. She clearly remembered putting it on her desk the night before, but in the morning it was in the drawer by the bed. Another time, a set of documents she brought home from work, neatly placed on the table, were scattered the next morning, some pages upside down, others creased as if hastily flipped through. Emily reassured herself maybe she'd been careless, or Michael tidied up the room. But these coincidences kept happening more and more. A commemorative ring from her mother left in her jewelry box was also out of place. One morning she woke up to find her phone wasn't plugged in like usual, but lying on the nightstand. The more she observed, the more Emily felt something was wrong. The peak came on a Wednesday morning. The night before, Emily had come home late after an urgent meeting at work. When she got home, she barely had time for a quick shower before opening her laptop to finish the plan. Around 11 p.m., she turned off the laptop, closed it, and placed it on the table. Then, she went downstairs to the kitchen to drink a cup of tea that Michael had prepared. The bitterness lingered, but she was too tired to think much, and quickly fell asleep. The next morning, when she woke up, she walked to the desk and was about to open her laptop to check her emails. But the moment she touched it, she was startled. The laptop surface was still warm, even slightly hot, as if it had just been used. Emily stood still, her hand trembling as it rested on the laptop lid. She was sure she had completely shut it down the night before. A fleeting thought sent chills down her spine. Could someone have turned it on and used it while she was deeply asleep? But in this house, there was only Michael. And Michael, the husband she trusted completely, would he have any reason to touch her computer? She tried checking the device's history. A few files had been opened recently, but not by her. Among them were important work-related documents. Emily's heart raced, cold sweat dripping from her forehead. At that moment, Michael came upstairs from the kitchen. He smiled and set a cup of coffee on the table. "You stayed up late again, didn't you? I saw your laptop was still on, so I turned it off for you." His tone was casual and calm, as if nothing was wrong. Emily forced a smile and nodded. But inside, a seed of doubt had taken root. He said the laptop was still on, but she clearly shut it down last night. Not just shut down, it was definitely closed. So why was it so hot this morning? All day, Emily couldn't focus on work. The bitter tea, the disrupted items, and the hot laptop kept replaying in her mind. She started looking at her husband differently, no longer with the same complete trust as before. That night, when Michael brought up the tea again, Emily gently raised the cup to her lips, but only took a small sip. The bitterness was still sharp. She forced a smile and said she was too tired and wanted to go to bed early. Michael looked at her with an unreadable expression, but still smiled and wished her a good night. Lying in bed, Emily opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling. In the darkness, her mind was tangled with questions. What was going on? What was her beloved husband hiding? And was that unusual sleepiness really just from being tired? Emily couldn't keep that worry to herself. All week long, she tried to focus on her work at the ad agency, but her mind kept drifting back to the strange details in her home. Bitter cups of tea, heavy sleepiness, things out of place, the laptop running hot. All pieces of a mysterious puzzle she wasn't brave enough to put together. Finally, Emily decided to confide in Rachel, her closest friend and coworker whom she trusted most. One afternoon, the two sat in their usual cafe near the office, where they often shared everything from work to personal life. Rachel was straightforward and sharp, always able to spot what others missed. "Rachel, something feels off at home lately," Emily began, her voice trembling. Rachel set her latte down and looked at her friend intently. "What do you mean by off? You look really tired. Your face looks pale, too." Emily took a deep breath and shared everything, from the bitter taste in her chamomile tea, the prolonged sleepiness, to things being moved, even signs that someone had used her laptop. When she told how Michael explained it as just turning off the computer to help, Emily clenched her hands, eyes welling up. Rachel frowned, silent for a few seconds before replying. "Emily, are you sure it's not just work making you exhausted? Stress can mess with your mind. I know my own habits. I've never slept so deeply that I wouldn't notice anything. And the laptop. I clearly remember turning it off. If what you say is true, then this is more serious than you think. Maybe Michael is hiding something. You need to check it out. You can pretend to drink it, then pour it out. See how he reacts. If there's really something in there, just change it up a bit, and you'll notice right away. That evening, as usual, when Michael brought the chamomile teacup upstairs, Emily tried to keep her hands from shaking. He still smiled gently and placed the cup on the bedside table. You must be tired today. Drink the tea and get some rest, Michael said, his eyes full of concern. Emily took the cup, forcing a smile. Thank you. She raised the cup to her lips, took a small sip, but didn't swallow. As soon as Michael turned away, she skillfully held it in, and then walked into the bathroom. She turned on the faucet, pretended to rinse her mouth, but actually poured most of the tea into the sink. Then she added some warm water and a spoonful of honey to make the cup look like it had just been drunk from. When she came back, Emily put the cup down on the table and pretended to sigh. I finished it. A brief frown crossed his face before disappearing. He nodded slightly. Good. Then you'll sleep well. She had never seen Michael annoyed just because she drank tea slowly. Normally, he was always patient and gentle. Yet tonight, just a small change made him show displeasure. Lying down in bed, Emily pretended to breathe evenly. But inside she was so tense she couldn't close her eyes. For the first time in many years of marriage, she felt afraid of the man lying next to her. In the following days, Emily continued following Rachel's plan. Each night, she poured out some of the tea, only tasting a small sip to keep it natural. And every time, she noticed Michael watching very closely. He often asked, "Have you finished drinking it? Why are you drinking so slowly today?" His gaze became more and more unreadable. Sometimes, he smiled gently like before, but other times, for a moment, Emily saw a cold, sharp look flash across his eyes. It was as if he was probing, waiting for something. Emily knew she couldn't keep turning a blind eye. There was a truth hidden beneath the perfect facade of this marriage, and she needed to find out before it was too late. Emily knew suspicion alone wasn't enough. If what Rachel said was true, she needed proof. A risky plan formed in her mind. She would record everything that happened at night, right in her own room. On Friday afternoon after work, Emily stopped by an electronics store and bought a small camera, the kind usually used for pet monitoring. It could connect to her phone, record all night, and save footage directly. She secretly placed it on the bookshelf in her bedroom, cleverly hidden among her novels. The lens faced the bed, capturing the space next to the window. That night, as usual, Michael brought up chamomile tea. He smiled, set the cup on the table, and said, "Drink this. You'll sleep better." Emily pretended to finish it as always, then put the cup down. Michael glanced over and nodded in approval. Emily got into bed, closing her eyes to fake sleep. Her heart raced, but she tried to keep her breathing steady. Michael got into bed beside her. The sound of him flipping a book page was faint in the dark. After a while, she heard the teacup set down. Then the bedside lamp clicked off. The room fell silent. She lay still, waiting, so tense she didn't realize when she drifted off. The next morning, Michael left early, saying he had an urgent meeting at work. Emily sat up, hands trembling as she checked the video on her phone. The screen showed the familiar scene of the bedroom, dim light spilling in from the hallway. Just before midnight, Michael appeared on camera. He stood by the bed, bending down to look at Emily. The image sent a chill down her spine. Michael wasn't just standing there. He softly called her name. "Emily," he whispered. No response. He called again, this time louder. "Emily." She saw herself in the video, lying still, breathing evenly, as if deeply asleep. Michael smiled, a cold smile Emily had never seen before in real life. He gently pulled the blanket down and sat on the edge of the bed. In the next clip, Michael took Emily's wallet from the drawer. He opened it and carefully photographed each bank card and ID with his phone. Emily gripped her phone tightly watching this, her heart pounding like it would burst. Not stopping there, Michael walked to her desk and opened her laptop. He typed the password as if he already knew it, then flipped through each folder. He paused for quite a while on the company documents folder, photographing many pages with his phone. At times, he leaned close to the screen, jotting notes into a small notebook he carried. Emily nearly held her breath, watching the part where Michael returned to the bed and carefully put the wallet and laptop back in place. Before leaving, he bent down and gently kissed her forehead. But that kiss, in the video, gave off a fake and creepy vibe that sent chills all over her body. She sat silently for hours, eyes glued to the screen. What she had just seen was no longer suspicion. It was the truth. Michael had drugged her with a sleeping pill, making her unconscious so he could freely search through her personal information and work documents. Emily hugged her phone tightly, tears streaming down. The man she had loved deeply, the man the whole world praised as the perfect husband, now revealed his true nature in those soulless clips. That entire morning, Emily sat motionless in the living room. Fear and despair surged inside her. She recalled every detail: the bitter taste in the tea, the strange sleepiness, the disordered belongings, the overheated laptop. Everything now connected in one clear line. Michael was no longer just a mysterious husband. He was a direct threat to her life. Emily knew from this moment on, she could no longer consider this house a safe place. Emily sat motionless for hours in front of the screen, her mind spinning with the images she had just seen. She wanted to believe it was all a mistake, that her husband might have some reasonable explanation, but every single frame felt like a knife cutting into her trust. Finally, in desperation, she called Rachel. Rachel listened from beginning to end, her voice growing serious. "Emily, this is no longer just suspicion. You have proof. Michael is definitely hiding something. This is deliberate behavior." Emily trembled as she replied, "But what if he has a reason? What if he's doing this to prepare a surprise or something?" Rachel interrupted. "What kind of surprise involves putting sleeping pills in your wife's tea? What kind of surprise requires taking pictures of bank cards and work documents?" "Emily, you have to face the truth. The man you're living with is not who you think he is." That statement stunned Emily. Deep down, she knew Rachel was right. 7 years of love, a marriage that seemed perfect, might just be a facade. Rachel decided to take action. "Tomorrow, I'll try to find out more about Michael. I know some people who work at the government office. They might be able to check basic records. If Michael really has something shady, we'll find out." The next day, while Emily sat working, her mind a mess, Rachel called her, her voice tense. "Emily, I just checked. There's no record of a Michael Anderson, born in 1983, living in Portland, that matches your husband. That name doesn't seem to exist in the official system." Emily was speechless. "No way. We have our marriage certificate, tax records, everything." Rachel spoke slowly. "I know. But in the national database, the Social Security number Michael uses doesn't match anyone born in Oregon. It first appeared 8 years ago. Before that, there's no trace at all." Emily felt her whole world collapse beneath her. 8 years ago, that was when she met Michael. That means all his records, all traces of him, only start just before he entered her life. But that's not all. Rachel kept searching on social media. She typed Michael Anderson's name on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. The results made Emily even more chilled. All the accounts were created the same year, 8 years ago, with early posts just building an image. A few travel photos, some work posts, a few polite comments. But as time went on, the content became sparse. Just enough to keep up an appearance. Rachel analyzed. "Emily, don't you see? This isn't a real life. This is an identity made up, built from scratch to look like an ordinary man. But behind it is emptiness. No family, no old friends, no clear education history." Emily held her head, tears rolling down. She remembered the beach proposal, the warm dinners, the good-night wishes. Could it all have been part of a plan? Could she have just been a pawn in a stranger's game? That night, when Michael came into the room with his usual cup of tea, Emily tried to stay calm. But in her eyes, panic and doubt were impossible to hide. Michael set the cup down, looking at her a little longer than usual. "Are you okay? You look really tired." Emily forced a smile. "It's just work." She lifted the teacup, pretending to drink like usual. But inside, her stomach tightened. She wanted to throw the cup straight to the floor, wanted to shout at him that she knew everything. But she swallowed her fear, stayed silent. When Michael turned off the light and went to sleep, Emily opened her eyes in the dark, staring at the ceiling. She knew from now on she couldn't see this marriage as a refuge anymore. The house she once called home was now just a trap. Rachel called her back the next morning, voice full of worry. "Emily, The more I think about it, the more dangerous it seems. If everything you told me is true, then Michael isn't just lying. He might be planning something even worse. Emily bit her lip. I don't know what to do. Rachel replied, "We'll keep digging. But Emily, from now on, you have to be extremely careful. Don't let him know that you're suspicious." Emily nodded, tears welling up again. All the happy memories from the past 7 years felt like they turned to dust. She started to truly panic. She wondered, who is the man lying next to her every night, really? And what's waiting ahead? That night, the house fell silent again. Emily lay in bed, eyes tightly shut but her mind fully awake. Ever since Rachel revealed that Michael's identity didn't exist before 8 years ago, her sleep had become restless and fragmented. Fear wouldn't let her relax, especially since every night Michael still brought her the usual cup of chamomile tea. She had secretly poured the tea away for days, but tonight, her instincts urged Emily to be even more alert. There was something in the way Michael looked at her during dinner, his gaze so focused, as if he was weighing a plan she wasn't allowed to know. Around midnight, Michael got out of bed. The door quietly opened, then closed. Emily slowly sat up, her heart pounding. She slipped off her slippers and walked barefoot near the stairs to keep the noise down. Downstairs, a faint light glowed from the study room under the door crack. She held her breath, pressing her ear close. Every word she heard sent chills through her. Michael's voice, low but clear, very different from his usual gentleness. "She doesn't suspect a thing. The drug is taking effect. I'll finish it in 2 weeks." Emily was stunned, her hands trembling as she gripped the railing. She heard Michael pause for a few seconds, as if listening to someone on the other end, then continue. "Yes, I'm sure. She's asleep so deeply she won't wake up. I have all the info I need. The handover will be completed on time." Emily's heart raced wildly. "The others" was mentioned in the conversation, brief but haunting. Michael said firmly, "Unlike the others before, this time there will be no mistakes." Emily almost collapsed right on the stairs. The others before. So that means she's not the only victim. Michael has done this many times, with many other women. All the doubts in her head now came together into a terrible truth. She bit her lip hard to keep from breaking down in tears. Every word Michael said felt like a knife cutting into her heart. In 2 weeks, she won't be a problem anymore. After that, we'll move on to the next phase. Everything has been prepared. Emily trembled as she stepped back, afraid her pounding heart might echo through the room. She rushed back to the bedroom, lay down on the bed, pulled the blanket up to her chin, trying to steady her breathing. A few minutes later, Michael's footsteps sounded on the stairs. The door opened, and he stood in the doorway for a moment, looking at her. Emily forced herself to stay still, closed her eyes, pretending to be sound asleep. Michael came closer, his hand gently resting on her hair. "Good night, my love," he whispered, his voice soft, like before. Then he climbed into bed, lay down beside her, breathing evenly, as if no call had ever happened. Emily lay still, but tears streamed down her face. She felt like she was lying next to a stranger. The man she once called her husband, who promised to protect her, was now discussing with someone about using drugs, about the others before, about a plan to be completed in 2 weeks. That whole night, Emily couldn't fall asleep. Every time Michael shifted, she tensed up, afraid he'd realize she wasn't asleep. When the morning light slipped through the window crack, she sat up, eyes dark and swollen, her whole body exhausted. Only one question echoed in her mind. "I'm just one of many victims. So what happened to the others?" That morning, Emily met Rachel at a small cafe. She told her every word Michael said on the phone. Rachel was stunned, her face pale. "Emily, this is much more dangerous than we thought. If he mentioned the others, it means you're not the first case. And if in 2 weeks everything will be finished, then your time is running out." Emily covered her face, sobbing. "I slept next to someone who might be planning to destroy me. I don't know what to do, Rachel. I really don't know." Rachel squeezed her friend's hand tightly. "You can't stay silent anymore. We have to find a way to gather more evidence. We need to know exactly what he's planning and who the accomplices behind him are. Otherwise, you'll be the next victim." Emily nodded, a mix of fear and determination in her heart. The horror was now clearly visible. She no longer doubted. She was sure Michael was not the man she once loved. He was dangerous, and she was just a link in his dark chain of plans. That moment marked a change in Emily. From a passive victim, she began to understand she had to fight to survive. In the following days, Rachel couldn't stay still. She started looking up information about missing women in Oregon and neighboring states. One evening, right after Emily got off work, Rachel called with a tense voice. "Emily, I just discovered something. In Seattle, 3 years ago, a woman named Linda Parker disappeared. Before she vanished, she told her friends she often felt unusually sleepy after drinking beverages her boyfriend made. And then one day, she never came back." Emily went silent. Her heart stopped. "Rachel, are you sure?" This is exactly like what's happening to me now," Rachel responded firmly. Not only that, as she searched more, she found Linda wasn't the only case. In California, another woman disappeared under similar circumstances. Both had a strange common point. They had appeared in online community groups, talking about boyfriends or husbands who seemed too perfect, too good to be true, and then suddenly gone. Meanwhile, Emily decided to search the house more thoroughly herself. One afternoon, when Michael went out, she went into the bedroom and knelt by the window where he had removed the floorboard. With trembling hands, Emily opened the floor compartment and pulled out a metal box. When the lid popped open, a chill ran down her spine. Inside were stacks of cash, dozens of passports with fake names, and most notably, photographs. Emily took out each photo, her eyes blurring with fear. In one corner of a photo, she recognized the face of Linda Parker, a woman missing in Seattle. In the picture, Linda was smiling, seemingly caught candidly at a cafe. Behind that photo were other women's faces. Some strangers, some looking very young. Emily dropped the stack of photos, her whole body shaking uncontrollably. The truth was laid bare right before her eyes. Michael wasn't just a liar. He could be a dangerous con man, even a serial criminal. She sat dazed in the middle of the room, her hands clutching her head. Memories of 7 years together flooded back. Every meal, every trip, every promise. It had all been a charade. The kind, gentle man who always cared for her could actually be responsible for making many innocent women disappear. Emily immediately took photos of all the documents and pictures with her phone. She sent them to Rachel with the message, "If something happens to me, this is the proof." That night, Emily still tried to act normal. Michael came home, carrying his usual cup of tea. She smiled, took it, then carefully set it down on the table. Inside, fear rose, choking her. Every time she looked into his eyes, she saw only the shadow of a stranger, a dangerous man. Meanwhile, Rachel kept digging deeper. She contacted a former cop she knew and sent the photos Emily had shared. That person immediately recognized another face in the photos. It was a woman reported missing in Colorado, a case still unsolved to this day. Rachel was stunned. "Emily, this is no longer just suspicion. Michael could be a link in a cross-state criminal network. Those women didn't disappear randomly. Someone was behind it, and he was part of it." Emily was almost broken. She looked around her house, once a home, now turned into a trap. She recalled every time she fell asleep after drinking the tea, unaware of what Michael had done with her belongings, her accounts, even her own body. The thought made her choke up. That night, Emily lay beside Michael, a mix of fear and determination swirling inside her. She knew she couldn't stay silent any longer. If she didn't act, she might become the next name on the list of mysteriously missing women. Michael turned to hold her, whispering, "I love you, Emily." Those words, in the past, would have made her heart flutter, but now they were cold and empty, like a knife stabbing straight into her pain. Emily closed her eyes, tears streaming down. In her mind, only the terrifying truth echoed. The man lying right next to her could be the one who destroyed so many lives, and now he was waiting for the chance to ruin hers too. The climax pushed Emily to the edge of despair. She knew the only choice left was to fight, to expose the truth before it was too late. That night, Emily lay still in the bedroom, listening to every little sound. The house was silent, only the wind whispering through the window frame. Michael walked into the living room, his shoes echoing on the wooden floor. Emily closed her eyes softly but kept her ears alert. Then his low voice came through the phone. "This Thursday will be the end. She'll have an accident. No one will suspect." Emily's heart wobbled, her breath caught. That phrase was clearly about her. The accident wasn't a coincidence, but a plan. She bit her lip hard, trying to hold back her tears. The next morning, while Michael left for work, Emily decided to check the metal box again. This time she found something new. A small brown bottle with a faded label, and next to it, 2 prepared syringes. She trembled as she picked them up, imagining a series of horrifying scenarios in her mind. If there hadn't been any prior suspicion, one day the accident Michael mentioned might have been her death. Emily didn't have time to hesitate anymore. She immediately texted Rachel, attaching pictures of the pill bottle and syringe. A short message. "You have to help me. He's planning to kill me. It's all going down on Thursday." Rachel was shocked, but acted right away. She contacted an old acquaintance in the police, Detective Harris, who had handled many missing person cases in the Northwest area. After looking over the evidence Emily sent, Harris responded immediately. "If what she's saying is true, we could be dealing with a dangerous serial offender. I'm in." The 3 quickly planned their next move. Emily would keep pretending she didn't know anything, acting normal so Michael wouldn't suspect a thing. Meanwhile, Rachel and Harris would find a way to monitor and set a trap. Harris promised to arrange surveillance around Emily's house on Thursday night, but stressed that Emily must be extremely careful and not act rashly. The waiting days dragged on endlessly. Emily tried to keep a calm face, still going to work, still talking to Michael like usual. But inside, every minute was torture. She knew well that just one small slip-up could cost her life. On Wednesday night, Michael came home later than usual. He walked in, took off his coat, set down his teacup, and smiled at his wife. "Tomorrow I'm taking you somewhere, for a change of scenery. We need a night just for the 2 of us." His voice was gentle, but to Emily, each word felt like a death sentence. Emily forced a smile and nodded slightly. Inside, she texted Rachel right away. "He just said he's taking me out tomorrow night. That's definitely when he'll make his move." Rachel immediately passed the info to Harris. The police began organizing a covert surveillance team, aiming to catch Michael red-handed as he prepared to poison her. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She lay staring at the ceiling, recalling every memory. 7 years of love, marriage, the days she believed she was truly loved. Everything collapsed, replaced by a crime drama. Tears streamed down, but in those eyes, a flame of determination had ignited. Thursday morning came, and the sky over Portland was gloomy. Emily stepped into the kitchen and saw Michael busy preparing things. He smiled, that familiar smile Emily once loved, but now it just made her shiver. On the table, the usual cup of chamomile tea sat waiting. "Drink up, today's going to be a long day," he said. Emily pretended to sip, but secretly poured most of it into the plant pot by the window. Her heart raced, her hands cold as ice. Meanwhile, Michael put a metal box into his bag, as if getting ready for a long trip. Emily realized tonight was the fateful moment. In the afternoon, Rachel and Harris arranged to meet Emily at a cafe near the park. Harris laid out the plan in detail. "We'll let you get into the car with him. If anything seems off, we'll intervene immediately. But you have to stay sharp and not give anything away." Emily nodded, her eyes filled with fear but also determination. Night fell, and Michael drove Emily to the car. He chose a quiet road heading to the outskirts, driving and chatting like it was just a normal date. But Emily could clearly feel the chilling, eerie atmosphere around them. Outside, in the darkness, undercover police cars silently followed. When the car neared the forest on the outskirts, Michael stopped. He opened the trunk and took out a small box. Emily caught a glimpse of a brown bottle and a syringe. Her whole body froze with fear, but she forced herself to stay calm. Michael turned to her, his voice soft as a breeze. "Don't worry, you won't feel a thing. It's just an accident." At that moment, a flashlight beam cut through the darkness. Harris and the police burst in, shouting, "Police! Drop your weapon!" Michael startled, his eyes flashing panic, then quickly turned cold. He threw the box to the ground, eyes locked on Emily. "You betrayed me," he said, filled with rage. Emily stepped back, trembling all over, but feeling a sense of relief. The trap has closed. Michael has no way out. The next night, the house in the Portland suburbs was shrouded in silent darkness. Emily lay on the bed, her body tense, every vein in her pulsing wildly. She pretended to be fast asleep, breathing evenly, her face relaxed as if unaware of anything. But inside, every cell in her body was stretched to the limit. Michael entered the room, his footsteps softly echoing on the wooden floor. In his hand, he held the familiar metal box. His cold eyes stared at his wife, a faint smile touching his lips that Emily would never forget. He knelt down, placed the box on the floor, opened the lid, and took out a stack of cash, several passports with fake names, and finally a small bottle of medicine along with a shiny syringe. Emily heard the clink of metal, her heart pounding as if it would burst out of her chest. She felt Michael's breath close by, his hand touching her arm, gently turning it to find a vein. At that moment, Emily slightly moved her finger, pressing a small signal button hidden under the pillow. A small red light blinked on the window frame, signaling Rachel and the police team lying in wait outside. Just as Michael brought the syringe close to her skin, the bedroom door burst open, a flashlight beam shining directly in his face. A firm voice shouted, "Police! Put the syringe down now." Michael was stunned, eyes wide open, still holding the syringe. He looked around and saw 3 armed officers aiming guns at him, with Detective Harris standing behind them. Rachel stood at the door, her face pale, but her eyes steady. In that moment, Michael sneered, "You think you can stop me?" He tilted his head, eyes full of defiance. But just a second later, when Harris stepped forward and forcefully twisted his arm, the syringe fell to the floor, rolled a few times, then lay still. Emily sprang up, retreating toward the headboard, her body trembling, tears streaming down, but she didn't scream, just silently watched the scene before her. The husband she once trusted and loved deeply for 7 years was now handcuffed right before her eyes. Michael was pinned to the floor, his wrists locked tightly in handcuffs. He turned to Emily, eyes blazing, voice choked but full of hatred. "You betrayed me. You're going to pay for this." Emily clutched the blanket tightly, her heart tightening. She didn't say a word, just sat there quietly, watching everything. Harris bent down, speaking softly to reassure her. "You're safe now. Trust me, he won't have another chance to hurt you." The police quickly confiscated the metal box. Inside, besides cash and a fake passport, there were documents proving Michael had been stalking several other women. Every photo, every paper, felt like a knife cutting into Emily's soul. As Michael was escorted to the car, Emily nearly collapsed. Rachel ran over and hugged her best friend, and they both burst into tears. Relief and terror mixed together, making Emily's shoulders tremble uncontrollably. That night, the house became a crime scene. The police searched every corner, seizing computers, phones, and many other pieces of evidence. Emily sat in the living room, wrapped in a thin sweater, her eyes staring off into the distance. All the memories from the past 7 years played like a movie, and she suddenly realized the marriage she thought was paradise was just a trap set from the start. The next morning, the local news reported the arrest. Headlines were everywhere. Portland man arrested on suspicion of multiple disappearances. Emily saw Michael's face on the television screen and suddenly felt like he was a complete stranger. But even though Michael was caught, the haunting fear inside Emily didn't fade easily. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw shiny syringes pressed against skin, and heard the icy voice say, "She will have an accident." She knew escaping this nightmare would probably take years of therapy and rebuilding trust in life. Rachel stayed by her side, encouraging her every day. Detective Harris also regularly called to check in. He promised that Michael would pay for his crimes in court. Emily slowly regained a bit of hope, but deep inside, the scars would always remain. The house she once called home now held only cold silence. Emily packed her things, deciding to leave and start over. She understood her life had shattered, but the truth revealed gave her a chance to live again. On the last night in that house, Emily stood by the window, watching the moonlight stretch over the small garden. She whispered a farewell. "This house was once my dream, but it was also a nightmare. From now on, I have to rewrite the story of my life." The trial took place a few months after Michael was arrested, but in the indictment, the name Michael Johnson completely disappeared. Instead, Emily froze when the prosecutor clearly read, "Viktor Petrov, 40 years old, Eastern European citizen, has been on the FBI's most wanted list for nearly a decade." Emily sat in the witness section, her hands clenched tight. At that moment, all the memories of her married years rushed back. The man she once trusted as the perfect husband turned out to be a cold-blooded killer, hiding behind a perfect disguise. The FBI presented a series of evidence. Victor had been married in at least 2 other states, and both previous wives had disappeared without a trace. Witnesses, bank records, photos from the safe in Emily's house, all painted a horrifying picture. He targeted independent women, built fake love, then slowly controlled them, seized their assets, and ultimately took their lives. Emily listened to every word, her heart tightening. She was both scared and strangely relieved. The brutal truth, but at least it was finally exposed. On sentencing day, the courtroom was packed with reporters. When the judge's gavel fell, the life sentence without parole sounded like a closing bell. Victor turned to look at Emily one last time. His gaze was cold, but no power could reach her anymore. After the trial, Emily decided to leave Portland. The city that once held happiness was now just a wound. She chose San Diego, a place filled with sunshine and open skies, as a way to remind herself to keep moving forward. The first days in the new city were far from easy. Emily often had trouble sleeping, startled by footsteps behind her. She signed up for therapy sessions, gradually learning to share her pain instead of hiding it. The process lasted for years, but little by little, she found herself again. At a support group meeting for victims, Emily listened to other stories. Women who had gone through similar tragedies. They cried, they trembled, but eventually they learned how to stand back up. From that, Emily found a new purpose. She didn't want her story to be just a scar, but a source of strength to help others. She signed up to volunteer at a nonprofit organization that supports crime victims. At first, it was just small sharing sessions, but gradually, Emily became a familiar face, inspiring others with her survival story. One time, after hearing Emily's story, a young woman came up, held her hand tightly, and whispered, "Because of you, I found the courage to leave my abusive partner." In that moment, Emily broke down in tears. Not out of sorrow, but because for the first time in years, she felt everything she had been through wasn't meaningless. Life in San Diego slowly stabilized. Emily rented a small apartment near the beach. Every morning, she walked along the shore, breathing in the salty air and watching the sunrise. Some afternoons, she sat on the porch, watching the neighborhood children play, feeling a sudden sense of relief. Those simple, peaceful moments were what she had thought she'd lost forever all those years. Occasionally, the press would still mention the name Viktor Petrov as a notorious case of identity fraud. But to Emily, he was just a shadow of the past. She didn't deny the pain, but she refused to be trapped by it. In a speech at a women's safety seminar, Emily ended with, "I used to think the worst horror was discovering the person I loved most wanted to destroy me. But now I realize the greatest strength is the ability to stand up and rewrite your life on your own terms." The whole room stood up and applauded. Emily smiled, calm and steady. She knew the journey was still long, but now she truly owned it. In San Diego, a new life opened up like a blank page. Emily learned to love herself, found joy in volunteer work, and most importantly, she became living proof that even in the darkest moments, people can find the light. When Emily's story ends, what stays with the viewers isn't just fear, but a series of profound lessons about vigilance, trusting yourself, and the power of justice. The first message is, trust your instincts. For months, Emily felt that something was off. From the faintly bitter taste in her tea, to the unusual sleepiness, and Michael's strange looks when he looked at her. If she had ignored it, if she had told herself it was just her being overly sensitive, Emily might not have survived. Instincts aren't an irrational illusion. They are the result of experience, keen observation, and the little details the brain picks up. Many people dismiss their instincts for fear of seeming paranoid, but sometimes instincts are the most important warning bell. The second message. Violence and deceit in a marriage are signs you should never ignore. Marriage is supposed to be built on love, respect, and trust. But when deceit creeps in and secretive actions grow suspicious, it's no longer a healthy marriage. Emily tried to trust Michael. She thought maybe he was just stressed from work or simply tired. But the reality was completely different. The harsh truth is, once there are signs of violence, control, or secrecy in a marriage, it's a clear signal you need to seek help. Silence and endurance only give the abuser more power to control you. And the third lesson, the most important message. Justice may come late, but it will win. Michael, or rather Viktor Petrov, lived for years under a perfect facade. He deceived, committed many crimes, and thought no one would find out. But in the end, the truth was revealed. Emily endured 7 years of a marriage full of lies, but when justice came, she was freed. The life sentence handed down to him is not just personal punishment, but a testament to everyone silently living in fear. The truth always finds a way to be uncovered. Emily's story also brings a ray of hope to anyone trapped in a toxic relationship. You might think you're not strong enough to break free, that no one will believe you, or that staying silent is the only way to keep temporary peace. But the truth is, only when you speak up, seek help, and believe in yourself are you truly protected. Emily chose to take action, and that's why she's still alive to tell her story. Now, the question, for those of you watching this story is, if you were Emily, how would you react when you found out the truth? Do you believe that intuition can save your life? And more importantly, do you have the courage to leave a dangerous marriage? Leave your answer in the comments below. Who knows? Your sharing might be the encouragement someone in a similar situation needs to find their way into the light. Thank you for taking the time to follow this story on the Crying Inside channel. The stories we bring aren't just dramatic pieces, but reminders that sometimes the truth hides right within the home we trust the most. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so others can listen and learn too. Your support motivates us to keep sharing real, emotional stories, journeys of struggle, and moments of healing. Remember, every family has secrets, pain, and challenges. But how we face them, choosing between silence and truth, will shape our future. In closing, I want to send you this message. Family can sometimes be the most dangerous place, but it can also be the starting point of healing. What matters is having the courage to face the truth head on. Goodbye, and see you in the next stories on Crying Inside.